Welcome to South Sligo Talks, a community-based podcast bringing you local news and stories from the heart of South Sligo on Cree Podcast Studios in Tubbercurry. On this week, we'll be talking about the Phoenix Players and their upcoming pantomime, Old Mother Hubbard, with guests Frank Brennan, Tom Walsh and Mary Barry. I'm Richard McCarthy and this is South Sligo Talks. Thanks again for joining us. This is episode 7 and we have some of the members and cast of the Phoenix Players with us. So we have Chairman Frank Brennan and we have Director Tom Walsh and of course we have Mother Hubbard herself, Mary Barry. Thanks again guys for coming in and joining us.
Thanks Richard.
You're more than welcome. So let's start with, I suppose, tell us about the history of the Phoenix Players. Who were their founders? I suppose, start with yourself, Frank.
Well, I suppose as a relative newcomer to the Phoenix Players, I'm maybe not in the best position to talk about who the founders were or going back to the early history. But the Phoenix Players were founded in 1945, one of the oldest amateur drama groups in the country, and longest enduring, I suppose, and best known, I suppose, one of the best known regulars on the drama festival circuit. Regulars in terms of big shows like what we're doing now down through the years, and I suppose carrying on that ethos of community theatre and community drama, because that's really, I suppose, what the objective and the mission of, you know, an organisation like the Phoenix Players is about. 1945 was when it started. There was a number of individuals involved at the time. Sean O'Dowd, I think Tom probably has more names in terms of the founding members themselves.
It actually originated in the local technical school.
Okay.
There was a teacher there, Paddy Murray, and he organised a class, I think, for shorthand and typing, and he was a drama enthusiast. And I think in order to kind of keep them occupied and to kind of maybe even boost numbers, he decided to produce a play with them. And of course, it had the backing of the headmaster at the time, that was Sean O'Dowd. So that's really how it all originated. They did a play, I think the first play they did was The Golden Priest, which was an all-male cast. So I suppose that you could arguably say that the parents of the Phoenix Players was Paddy Murray and Sean O'Dowd.
Very good.
And it kind of took off from there. The first chairman was Sean Cahill. There was a secretary, Rita, Joseph Gallagher, I think, was a secretary. And the treasurer was Joe Masterson. So it was kind of fairly male-dominated at the time, you know, which I suppose was the way things were back in the 1940s, you know.
That's it. Very good. So that's so it would have started in what year?
1945.
1945. So you're
no, I wasn't around there myself, but I kind of came along sometime after that. But,
so 1945. So how many years is that? That is, you're coming up on.
Yeah, it's 78 years.
78 years. So
78 years. Yeah.
So a long time going. Okay.
So we have been going. I mean, we wouldn't have been maybe a production every year.
Yeah.
But it has been going. The name actually, the Phoenix Players, I think it was Paddy Murray that picked the name. It has this idea that it rose from the ashes, and it actually rose from the ashes of the old Tubbercurry Dramatic Society, which was in existence before that. And there has been kind of lapses over the years, and then I think sometime in the early 70s Joe Masterson had been away and he came back to the town and he resurrected it again in that year. They did a play called Anyone Could Rob a Bank. Very apt. And it has been, you know, going since then pretty consistently, you know.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose let's describe the typical process for selection of a play and a performance.
Well, I suppose any time that I would have been directing myself, I would usually, there would be a play maybe that I would have a particular liking for, and I would then, if I knew I could cast it, I would go ahead, you know. And I suppose when you're working with a group over a number of years, you get to know people, you get to know their capabilities, you get to know what they're suitable for, and that's usually it has always been whoever would decide to direct it, they would pick a play and then pick a cast after that. You know.
Okay. And do you prefer like new plays versus old favourites, or?
I think we would obviously, we'd be looking for new plays. There can be a tendency sometimes to go for older plays, but the problem with that is there can be some of the plays that are even on the circuit at present are kind of done to death, if you like.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have to try and maybe try and do something different, you know.
Yeah, very good. Now, your production of the Pantomine Old Mother Hubbard is starting this evening, and it's running starting tonight. So tonight is open night as such. So thanks, again, guys, for coming down. Especially,
No problem.
You know, literally opening at 8 o'clock tonight, I believe. Can
8 o'clock tonight. Yeah, we're curtain up at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Doors open at 7:30, and I think we're pretty much ready to go. You never quite know until the show
Exactly.
kicks off. Maybe we'll have a better idea at 10:30 tonight how well prepared we were, but
the excitement of open night is kind of kicking in. I presume it's kind of
it is for sure. And as I think, you know, we've put so much work into it now over the last number of weeks since the beginning of January, really, and you get it to a stage where you can rehearse, but it'll never go any further until you get the audience in front of you. And particularly a show like this, particularly a pantomime where there's a lot of audience interaction, the audience effectively become another character. So
good. And so it's on tonight, and it's on. So run us through kind of the different nights it's on. So it's starting tonight, it's the open night, and
starting
then
tonight, tomorrow night again,
okay.
and Sunday night, and then we have a break of 2 nights, Monday and Tuesday, and we're back on again on Wednesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, finishing 1st of April.
Very good. Okay, and of course we have Old Mother Hubbard with us here tonight. So Mary, tell us about the story, because Old Mother Hubbard we'd know as nursery rhyme, but I'm not familiar with the play. So tell us about Old Mother Hubbard.
Well, it's a Western style pantomime written by Paul Riggs, and it based on the Hubbard family that everybody knows from the nursery rhyme. Old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard to get her poor doggy a bone, and we have an actor doing the doggy as well. And
he's a big dog.
So a tall dog.
And we have a license for him.
Oh, have you? Oh, he's better. It's like
I
a big
didn't
greyhound.
know that. I can't afford a license. Poor Mother Hubbard has no money, and she's going to be evicted. So she has to find ways of trying to keep bread on the table, and the cupboard is bare, and she's trying to sell turf to make ends meet, and she's losing her groceries, and she can't feed the family. And then, you know, we get this magic wish. The fairy godmother appears and transports us. So the Hubbard family moved to the Wild West, and that's when they meet the cowboys and the Indians, and it all kicks off from there.
And I'd say there's a fair few cowboys in Tubbercurry. I'd say no problem.
There's lots
casting
of I tell you, the amount of cowboy hats and cowboy boots that have been bought, I'd say there's probably some Chinese factory going, our sales are gone through the roof.
Fantastic.
But
is it a big challenge to coordinate such a large cast? Because there is quite a large cast. How many people are involved?
Yeah, I'd say I think I've kind of lost count, but there's about 90.
Okay.
I'd say,
wow.
Between all, you know, and then there'd be, of course, there's a backup crew of about 30 people as well. Now, there is some doubling up in the cast, but we have something like 20 children in it. Now, because it's running, you know, 3 or 4 nights consecutively, we have 2 sets of children. So it's every second night.
Oh, that's good. Very good.
So, but there's a fair bit of the logistics of kind of coordinating everything, because there are so many aspects to it. You have the kind of the choreography, and you have the music, and you have obviously the set construction, and then the actual acting as well.
Yeah.
So usually everybody is working away individually. For the initial rehearsals, and then at some point you kind of start to kind of put the thing together, and that's when the fun really starts. Trying to get it together, you know.
And I suppose just going into those kind of different roles, like we'll say you'd have your main characters, you've got the musicians, stage man, sound promotion, etc. We'll say who's your main characters? Who's playing the main characters?
Well, the main character, of course, is Mary here. She's playing Old Mother Hubbard. The family then is, you have her son Huey is played by Colm Kelly. He's one of our new recruits. He's only, I think, 15 He's in transition year in St. Attractus. And then we have her daughter Polly, and that's played by Sharon Hannon. Now Sharon has been involved with us a couple of times, and she's also acted with Clona Cool. And then we, of course, the doggy, Dandy. He's played by Killian Brennan. And they're really the main characters in the sense that they are in the show right through. And then once we head out to the Wild West, we meet what we call the Matt Vinyl gang. They're the kind of I suppose the typical baddies that you have in these pantomimes, you know. So he is his, Matt Vinyl's played by Jerry May, and he's a stalwart of the group. And then you have his two sidekicks played by Michael Coleman and Raymond Walsh.
Okay, very good. But like you said, there's a lot of cast.
There's something like 20 speaking parts altogether in the show. Yeah.
And I would say, tell us about like the casting process itself. Like, how did you find all these people to cast in the play?
Yeah. Well, initially, I suppose we have about a hard core of about 20 people in the group. You know, so most of the parts we had them already in the group. But then for some of the other parts, some of the new parts, we had a kind of an auditioning process, you know, and out of that then we got, as I said, Colm in and also Airdin King, who's playing the part of Little Deer. She's a little Indian maid.
Very good.
So she kind of turned up at one of the auditions, and that's how, like, for a big show, we'll never cast them all from our own group. So, but I suppose this is the thing that a show like this, it does throw up new people, you know. That's what we need, particularly young people.
Absolutely, and it's great to see, because like I know we say like St. Attractus had their play this year as well, and like even Aaron I think was in that as well. But
both of them were.
It's great that they can kind of get involved in other plays, you know, and kind of see that. You see that they're interested in it, which is fantastic, you know.
The only thing I suppose our problem basically is that while we always manage to get some new ones in, we'll say that are maybe in transition year, the problem is that in a year, the next year then they're into doing the leave insert, and then they're gone to college, and then they're gone.
Yeah, I understand.
What we really need, so if we're really lacking in younger people in their 20s and 30s, you know, that age category, because there's so many plays, so many shows that need people at that age, and so we're always, you know, we're struggling in that area at the moment. Like, unfortunately, a lot of us are getting up the line. So I'd be putting an appeal out, using this opportunity now to put an appeal out to people in that age category that are around, that are living around, you know, because you need the people that are around, you know, and they're part of the community to join.
And we'll say from the perspective of people, how do they, like, is it just when you hear about that you're putting on a play that they apply, or what's the application process?
Well, usually we have an AGM every year, and we always kind of advertise that, and we always say new people welcome, you know. And sometimes we might be fortunate to get one or two, but a lot of people, you know, I think at the end of the day, probably the best way is word of mouth, you know, where you actually talk to people and on a one-to-one basis, you know. It's probably the best way, you know.
Okay.
I think it's probably one of the big advantages of a show like this. And, you know, 4 years ago we did The Sound of Music, which was a gargantuan production as well, and had the same kind of numbers of people involved, 100 plus people, including cast and crew. And I suppose you could it's like you could use the analogy of the underage football team, where, you know, if you're bringing 2 or 3 new people through to the senior team in a given year, you're doing well. So one of the advantages of a show like this, where you have that number of people involved, is that it maybe gives people a taste for, you know, the stage and dramatic productions that they otherwise wouldn't have got. And it comes back really to the community ethos of the group. But, you know, over the last couple of years, even on foot of the likes of the Sound of Music production, we have gotten a couple of new people involved who have gone on to act on drama festival circuits and picked up awards and so on and so forth. So a show like this is hugely beneficial from that point of view. But as Tom said, like it's really about retaining as many of those people as we can, because there is a dearth of people in that age category, between say 20 and 40.
Yeah.
And as Tom said, like there's so many of the plays out there now that you know, if you can't cast them, obviously you can't do them, and the cast requirements demand a lot of people in that kind of age category, without being in any way ageist at all.
Of course, no. I was like, right, that's me.
We can do wonders with makeup as well.
and do you find, like we say, so the pantomime, the pantomime you're doing at the moment, do you find it beneficial in terms of sourcing new kind of talent and stuff like that, or? Well,
for sure. I suppose in a way time will tell, because we have them on board now in this. But the key thing would be to keep a hold of as many of those people as possible for future productions, and there will be a certain number of them that will. There'll be some that won't, and a lot of it, I suppose, comes down really to that thing, that the old cliche about being, bitten by the bug.
Yeah,
I know my own personal experience is exactly that. Once I got a taste for it, I couldn't get enough, and now
you're hooked.
The job now is to try and get me off the stage as opposed to get me on it. But definitely it's of a huge benefit, and it's a great, even for the kids involved. My own son, who plays Dandy the dog, he's involved now for the first time in something like this, and the experience of that for kids, or for anyone that mightn't have been involved before or involved at a very minimal level, it's huge. Like, you can't overstate really the benefit that it is from that point of view, a show like this, because there are a lot of the country really is teeming with amateur drama groups, and we've seen, we saw the drama festival here a couple of weeks ago where there was 9 plays in 9 nights. That experience is repeated in towns and villages all over the country,
absolutely,
with different groups, and they'll do their drama circuit every year, but even doing that alone and nothing else affords little opportunity for maybe new people to get involved beyond a big core. And I'm sure, look, the experience that we have in trying to recruit new people, it's not unique to Tubbercurry. I'd be fairly certain of that. Other groups probably have the same kind of difficulties, but doing something like this is a way of opening up, know. And as Tom said, then it's through word of mouth. We have our AGM, we have a ever-growing presence on social media. We're, trying to spread the web as wide as we can. So
very good. And I suppose from the fact of having kind of new talent coming in, like, they are learning from the experience of the more experienced talent. Like, so, like, even Mary, like we say, your experience with the Phoenix Players, can you remember, we say, the first play you did with the Phoenix Players?
I do, indeed. I remember as well. It was in 1982, and I'd just come back home to work, and the Phoenix Players was the best thing that happened to me, I'll tell you, because, there wasn't that much to do. There was, nothing laid on, so you had to make your own fun. And it was Rashomon, actually, that it was a Japanese murder mystery thriller, and we went on the festival circuit with it. And then I did a pantomime I produced at Old King Cole in 1984, and actually that was Desmond Bailey's first time on the stage. He was only about 6. And he became Lord of the Dance. I mean, that's what you're talking about. Tubbercurry is very fortunate. Like, when I went to college first, I went to the theatre. People in my class had never been to the theatre. It would never strike them. And, we, from the age of 10, like, you were used to having 10 plays a year at least, thanks to the Western Drama Festival. So you saw plays, and if you liked it, it was a complete bug, and it never leaves. And for young people that get involved, you can see their confidence developing, and they're learning from everybody. And I learned from the likes of Rita Gannon as a young actress, and I watched her time in, and it was like stage school. It was just, and you'd like to think that you were helping others around you, with a bit of experience now. It's just the circle goes all the way around, and like the transferable skills that young people learn when they stand on a stage. You can see them coming in for the first rehearsals. They're so shy and they're into themselves, and they realise they just have to put themselves out there, and it's not comfortable. But the Phoenix Players is a very nurturing group that way. Some theatre experiences, particularly in the professional arena, can be very daunting and not the most pleasant. But the Phoenix Players is a very nurturing place to start. Good. And if you have any feel for it at all, give it a go, and put your toe in the water and see what happens. And if you like it, you love it, or else you'll find other things that you might like to do, like backstage. We could really do with some more people backstage as well, because the skills have changed and technology has come into theatre in a big way too.
And like the whole idea of this podcast was to kind of raise awareness of different community projects and all that. From the perspective of the Phoenix Players itself, will say, is there, like you said, is there a shortage of certain positions or certain roles that you need people? Like you said, we'll say people to help backstage. Where else would you kind of see the need for extra people?
Well, I think
the technical.
Certainly, if one is considering, we'll say, continuing to do the festival circuit, we definitely would need backstage people, because that can be there's a big commitment in that.
Yeah.
Because you have to kind of set off maybe at 12 o'clock in the day, put up a set, and then do the show, take it down, come back, pack it into a van, come back, and then maybe head off in a day or two to some other venue. And that does take commitment and
a lot of work.
And like I think we're at a stage now where we're losing some of our backstage people, if you like, that they're not prepared. While they'll help out if we're doing a local show, but I think if we're going on the circuit, it's a different story,
Yeah, exactly.
And it's very hard to get people now to commit to that, because I suppose the people will say that we'll say carpentry skills and all that, they're all busy, they're all working. They're not really in a position to take the kind of time off that's needed.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised. I think like the one thing we'll appeal will say to people to be interested. There is some people that mightn't be great in front of on stage. They mightn't feel they have the courage to go on stage yet. But I presume it's a great experience. Like if you're backstage and you're watching all this happen, that it helps your courage and it helps build your kind of interest in actually going on stage. It's a great way to kind of get into acting as such. Would it be? It kind of does. It certainly gives them an insight into what goes on anyway. And of course, there's always sometimes, very often, nearly another play going on backstage. The kind of things that go wrong or aren't planned. But I think the only thing I do feel though, that there are guys that would never go on stage, but they're still quite prepared to help out
to do the construction work and that.
I suppose, guys, from your own perspective, would say, is it very costly to put on a show like this? Like we say, we're in kind of the price of everything has gone up in the whole lot. We say it's quite expensive. I'd say
it is. I mean, we're looking at around this one is probably going to cost around about 20,000.
Wow.
Because for a start off, you have to get the rights,
and
they can be quite expensive. Then you have obviously the hire of the hall. We're paying St. Bridget's Hall all the time for heating and all of that. Then you have the sets. We usually we have to purchase a special backdrop for this. And then you have costume hire, even just painting the sets. And there are a lot of other kind of incidentals, even the music, you have the musicians,
band,
choreographer, all of that. There is a certain amount of expense involved with all of that.
The band this year is a fantastic development. I think, Frank, you'd like to say more because there's a lot of your family in it as well. But like it's a homegrown, and their sound is brilliant. Like it is just such a lift. People are really going to enjoy this show, I have to say.
They're very dedicated. They're come in actually for rehearsals, and very often you don't get that.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of these kind of shows,
unique.
they come in one night for one rehearsal. That's it. But these guys have come in a couple of nights and they have rehearsed with us.
Fantastic.
And which is enhanced.
Huge.
And they're again all local, and as Tom said there, like it is a pretty unique thing to have a band there available for a number of rehearsals before a show like this. Because normally you'll rehearse up maybe till a week or a few days maybe before opening night, and then you'll get a run, maybe two if you're lucky with the band, and that's it, and it's sink or swim then. But with these guys, they're all local. Our musical director is Noelle Brennan, my own sister. And we have then our drummer is Niall Kelly from Clonakul. We have Jarlath Brennan from Bunnaradden on banjo. We have Joe Sheridan, well known to you here in Uncree, on lead guitar. We have Martin Rooney on rhythm guitar. We have, I don't want to leave anyone out now, we have my own son, Gene. I better not leave him out. I won't be able to go home. John Brennan on bass. And we have our assistant musical director as well, Claire Rooney. So yeah, super band. Like, I mean, it really, when they came into us there a couple of weeks ago, it just lifted the whole thing and brought it to life in a way. So
it sounds like a performance not to be missed. Like, by the sound of it, like between the band and the play itself and everything, it sounds like it's going to be a really good night.
Yeah, actually, I just mentioned our choreographer, Mary mentioned about Des Bailey. You know, when he was 6 in the Pantomine 1984. He's actually our choreographer for this show now. You know, we're
for some of it, he would put his name down on it.
Well, yeah, the dancing skills maybe now of some of us would be no reflection on Des's ability as a choreographer.
Don't put that one out.
No, but he is. I think he has. We have 8 very competent dancers now. Does an awful lot of work. You know,
it's a lot. It is a lot of work. I suppose let's go from that to the sales. We say, how are the sales going for the show? We say, is the tickets going quite well?
They're going very, very well. I think we're pretty closing night. I think is sold out, or pretty close to sold out. The first Saturday night, which is tomorrow night, is all but sold out tonight. Ticket sales are going very well. Sunday night, I think, is again approaching. So there'll be a limited number of tickets available on the door on the nights themselves, but very limited. So the advice is the tickets are available from Cone's Daybreak, Doohan's Daybreak and Gillespies shop here in Tubbercurry. The advice is definitely go get your tickets in time and avoid
not to leave it for the last couple of shows, you know.
And cost, how much are the tickets?
So €20 per ticket and €10 concession then on the door for children.
Very good. Okay, so bring the kids along as well. And there is quite a lot of kids involved in it as well. So
there is, as I said, it's about kind of family based. I think we have something like, between all, we would have maybe 30, 40 kids, you know, between the two groups.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Yeah. I suppose I have to put it out there. We'll say, why would you encourage someone to go along to the show?
I think if they want a bit of escapism from the doom and gloom that we're getting every day on the news,
the bad news,
that's the place. There's so much. Just go, have a laugh, escape for a couple of hours.
Yeah, get away from the weather as well, my God.
Get away from the weather.
This isn't this show. It's not a social commentary, or there's no great moral or message behind it. It's, as Tom said, pure escapism. It's fun. Exactly. There's something for everyone in it. The kids, the adults, the music, the dancing, the spectacle of the whole thing. It's definitely, it's one not to be missed for sure.
Sounds really good. Okay. Well, I have to ask you guys. So we'll say, and again, I haven't even put this out to you, but what would be your favourite play that you've done? Any takers? Now that's putting you on the spot.
Well, one play that I was a play called Our Town.
Okay.
It was a play we did back in, I think, 2004. It's just a play I always wanted to do. We did it then. It would be one of my favourites. In my case, as regards plays anyway. I suppose as when it comes to musicals, again, it's hard to, you know, you see something in every one I did. I mean, Sound of Music, we did it a few years ago, is one I wanted to do. Some years back I did Calamity Jane, which Mary starred in. And I kind of would have a hunch to do it again, which is a bad sign to be repeating shows, but those would be my...
What about yourself, Mary?
Gosh, it's very hard to say. I mean, it's really
there's been probably so many great ones,
yeah, there's been a lot of great ones. There was one very funny one that we often got great feedback on back in the late 80s. Joe Masterson's last acting role, I think, was Daughter from Over the Water. It was hilarious. I mean, even though I say it was funny. It was just one of those that went around at the time. A lot of people from the area were living in London and Australian places, and they had the old video, and they used to meet, you know, they'd stick it into the machine in London or wherever the flat was, and they'd be quoting you years later, you know, lines out of it. And I got, you know, they loved it for some reason. It was so corny, we didn't expect it. But I don't know, I really enjoyed My Fair Lady, that I directed that one back in 2009, and it was beautiful. But it is much more stressful directing than acting. I prefer the acting, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I always said the directing part is stressful during the rehearsal process, and then you can kind of relax, and then the pressure is on the actors then, on when it comes to the performances.
Frank, what about you?
Well, I suppose it's a little easier for me because I haven't been involved as long as Mary or Tom. I have to say, like my initial experience with the Phoenix Players was back in 2007. A show called At the Black Pig's Dyke. Great show. It was one we did on the 3-act festival circuit. Now I had a small minor role, but it gave me the bug, I suppose. Now, in saying that, the bug was probably in quarantine because I didn't come back again for 10 years after that. And that was directed by the late Peter Davey, our great friend and colleague. I suppose, though, I'd really have to say the Sound of Music in 2019 was such a big spectacle, and people around Tubbercurry are still talking about it.
Yeah.
They'll still bring it up in conversation when the conversation comes around to the Phoenix Players. 3-act play we did last year on the festival circuit, the Communication Court. Again, it was something that we had started under Peter Davies' directorship. Tom took on the production of it then when, after the COVID interrupted circuits got back on track, and we completed it last year. Found it very enjoyable. I suppose the primary reasons I did that play, we won an All-Ireland 1-act with Plaza Suite in 2021, losing track of the years. But it's the audience reaction, really. I mean, for me, that's where the gratification lies. To hear people still talk about the likes of the Sound of Music, or I think we did 9 shows on the festival circuit last year with Communication Court, and I think we got 9 standing ovations, which you won't always win awards everywhere you go, but if you get that type of a reaction from an audience, that's really what it's about, for me anyway, and I'm sure the others.
And just to say, because neither of them probably will think of it themselves, but both Tom and Francis played the same part in the Communication Court, kind of 1985 to 2022, and both of them won All-Ireland Acting Awards for the same part. The part of Tim in that, which is a great achievement.
No, really good.
Yeah, it is nice.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well, look, I'd say we could talk for hours and hours about the Phoenix Players and all that. I think what we'll do, we've kept you long enough. I know you've got rehearsals to go back to and all that and get ready for tonight. That's basically it for this week, guys. You can catch up on previous episodes on YouTube channels, Sligo Talks. So make sure to like, subscribe to get updates on new episodes. We're also on Facebook. Just search for Sligo Talks and we should pop up. If you have any requests or would like us to discuss anything, send us a message, and that's basically it. Thank you for watching.